Disney, the land of magic, wonder, and millennials crowding up your ride lines. What else is wonderful about Disney? Certainly the wacky stories that have come out of their transport network. Disney needs no introduction. It is a theme park. Wait, why am I introducing it? Okay, Disney Transport in specific. Disney Transport is exclusive to the Orlando campus of Disney, meaning that all these incidents come out of Florida, of course. Now, they have various different transit types, being buses, gondola lifts, monorails, parking lot trackless trains, and ride-share services, which I don't know, dude, what the heck, but watercrafts as well, a prominent one being their ferry service. Despite it being a theme park, it does not just have a couple shuttle buses. It has transport that's comparable to a pretty large city, hosting over 486 buses, 250 plus gondolas, 12 monorails, and 38 watercraft in total, along with those weird trackless trams, being 28 in number. Autistic transport rants aside, I hope you were impressed by the amount of my knowledge on Disney's public transport. But anyways, right into the crazy incidents that have occurred on this transport network. Let's splash into our first crazy incident, which occurred at the Seas Lagoon. For some backstory, the Seas Lagoon is an artificially built lake that is near the Magic Kingdom, and it serves ferry boats that go between the Magic Kingdom theme park and the Transportation and Ticket Center. This incident involves quite the splash. It was a regular day on December 30th, when one of the boats making its way between the Ticket and Transportation Center and Magic Kingdom experienced a jump and a splash. It turns out that a 56-year-old woman jumped from a Walt Disney World ferry boat on a Monday evening of all times. Now, the name of this woman was unknown, but she was accompanied by people whom she knew. That's what the corporal of the police department said. Now, a rescue unit had to find her and transport her to a hospital, where she had to be treated and receive mental health evaluation. After the evaluation, the incident was deemed an attempt at testing Minecraft's fall damage system. Mind you, the Seas Lagoon is only 4.3 meters deep, which is about 14 feet. Not so deep, especially if you are jumping from a high height. But the ferry itself, if you look at photos online, is at most 2 stories tall, so you can't really get any damage, and at best, and at its worst, it would just be a fun dive. Staying on the topic of mental health, I'd like to thank today's video sponsor, BetterHelp. No, I'm not sponsored. That's a joke. That'd actually be a really insensitive sponsor segue. But if you do want to help the channel with no monetary cost to you, consider doing all the YouTube obligatories, following my Instagram, and joining the Discord. All links are below. Thank you very much. Now imagine you were taking a ferry to the Magic Kingdom, and then you suddenly ended up in a garbage can. Well, this is what happened to Justin Tripp in April of 2023. After arriving at the parking lot, Justin Tripp decided to take the Richard F. Irving ferry, which traveled from the parking lot to the Magic Kingdom theme park. During his trip, the ship suffered from immense overcrowding, which resulted in an employee telling Tripp to go up to the stern of the ship. Mind you, this was standing space. There was no sitting down. If being in an overcrowded ship to a place that's meant to be for relaxing is not bad enough, the ferry driver, whether it was a result of overcrowding and extra weight or driver negligence, the ship ended up crashing into the dock instead of steadily stopping. The impact was severe enough to knock one passenger unconscious and to cause Justin Tripp to fall and hit his head and neck against a steel pillar of the ferry. Ouch! Which made him fall into a disgusting and slimy garbage can, but it did, in the end, save him from falling overboard. But I must say, that is quite the Looney Tunes conclusion to such an adventure. But Justin wasn't so happy at the comedic event. He decided to sue Disney for $50,000. And I don't know whether he won or lost, but I do know that he sought $50,000 due to the injuries.
Greetings, retake check over here. I had to film this. Now I had to retake it due to mic problems, but hopefully it's better. And now I have a camera. Look at that. Fancy focusing. Ooh, how nice is that? Anyways, this incident is a bit more serious. It involves violence and quite unreasonable violence. This involves an incident that happened a long time ago and with the parking lot trams. Now, you wouldn't quite expect an incident to happen with parking lot trams, but here we are, I guess. This occurred in August of 1993, when a female guest, two male guests, with a 6-inch knife. Now, if you ask me, carrying around a 6-inch knife at a children's theme park is already indicative of something bigger. Who brings a knife to a theme park? That is quite the interesting question. This all began at the tram stop in the Pluto parking lot of the Magic Kingdom. Involved in this occurrence were 2 men and 1 woman. One man, a 41-year-old from Cinnamonson, New Jersey. Firstly, Cinnamonson. What a name, I must say. What a name. Cinnamon. I'm named after a place. Yeah, bro, I live in Cinnamonson. Yeah, look that up. Real place, by the way. This feels like something out of a Candyland board game. Anyone in Cinnamonson, leave it in the comments. I'm really interested. And a 37-year-old man from Miami. They were both transported to the Sand Lake Hospital after the engagement happened. Now, you could probably assume what happened, but let's get into further detail. So in the aftermath, the woman left the scene. She took off in an unmarked white car. And what happened was that originally the woman grabbed the 37-year-old man while he was standing with his daughter. So this man was standing with his daughter waiting for an oncoming tram. And out of nowhere, she just decided to say, "Never stare at a female like that." And then the knife that she used was pulled out of her sock. Now, mind you, this was a paring knife. This is not a flip knife where you have it in your belt buckle or something of the like. You pull it out for self-defense purposes or for practicality purposes. This was a straight-up kitchen knife, according to reports. And carrying that in your sock is quite risky, one might say, because you just have an open blade dancing around where there are a lot of significant vessels leading to your feet. But I assume this could have to do earlier with the other incidents I mentioned, correlating with possible mental health struggles. Because once again, I've already asked the blade question, but also what type of blade and carrying around in your sock, touching someone and then deciding to stab them. There's clearly a bigger issue at play, and unfortunately, it may seem that she was troubled to some extent, and it's very unfortunate to see this. But out of nowhere, that happening while waiting for a good time at Disney from the parking lot tram is quite tragic. It is quite tragic. Now, this last incident is something quite interesting. Firstly, because it wasn't covered widely during its time when it happened back in July of 1994, but also because of how obscure it is. In this incident, it appears that
Zeus himself cursed Disney World
by seeing these crazy trackless trams that aren't even that great of a form of transport, and Zeus was like, "Hey, this is a pretty bad form of transport. I'm going to hurl lightning at it." And so it occurred that on July 27th of 1994, lightning struck one of these rubber, trackless tram thingies. I feel like these trackless trams are sort of like a take on, it's a modified version of those tugs you see at airports. They just kind of have an airport tug and they put passenger seats in it. Quite creative, actually. Of course, real rail is better, and it also appears that the Greek mythological figures appear to agree with the consensus of rail fans, so that's pretty bright to see. But 7 people were stunned in the strike, and 4 people were transported into the hospital, and all were released on the same day, which is quite surprising given how intense some lightning strikes can be. But maybe they were Floridians, because in Florida, lightning strikes happen very often, and I'm pretty sure being in Florida, you acquire this hereditary trait of being immune to lightning strikes. Kind of like when you're in an RPG game and you get to select the starting trait of your build. With Floridians, it has to do with, alligators, hurricanes, lightning. So it's no surprise that everyone was released from the hospital on the same day. Anyways, though, I appreciate that you tuned into this video. I've been very busy with some other projects and some other things, so I haven't released videos in a long time. If you enjoyed, do all the obligatories, please, or let me know what you think, what I could change. I've upgraded some of my equipment, and I am seeking to maybe change editing software. I'm currently using CapCut. But I thank you all for all the support. I promise to make better videos in the future. I wasn't too proud of this one. Even though I like to only release videos that I'm proud of, I know that people get riled up when I don't release it in a long time. Anyways, I'm the Transit Diaries, and as always, stay tuned for more.